Mock Draft and The Athletic.
Okay.
And we had a new one from The Ringer. Both came out today. And again, we're talking NBA draft because it's a little bit our responsibility, just in case if the Kings do use their pick. But you're under the impression that they're not going to. You're under the impression that that pick is going to more likely than not get dealt.
Okay, look, I'm not going to say that because every time I think that they're going to trade their pick, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I'll explain. Every time I think they're going to trade their pick, they don't. Right. So, like, when they drafted Davion Mitchell, like, that pick was up for grabs. Like, everyone in the NBA knew that number 9 pick was up for grabs. And then they used it to draft Davion. Right. And like the Keegan Murray draft, like, I think more. Like, for me, it was like, you probably, if you're going to draft Keegan Murray, that's fine. You should probably trade down to 5. And if you can't get anything out of Detroit, which I guess is what happened, then sure, you got to take him at 4. That's A-okay. Right. But when it comes to like this group, I did not think that they were going to draft last year and they traded the pick. So maybe there is something here to the trend. But the conversations that I've had is very specific. They are going to be open to everything. And people can go, okay, well, what does that mean? There are so many things you can do with a draft pick, right? You can draft a player for another team. You can draft a player for yourself, but that's not it. You can trade back in the draft. You can trade up in the draft, but you can trade back in the draft in order to get a 2025 or 2026 pick that then would free you up to trade other things. Like, as long as you have a first round pick, you don't fall under the Stepien rule. So there are ways that the Kings could help themselves, like not just this season, but multiple seasons. I don't think we're going to see a cash dump, which we've seen in the past, because there's no reason for that. So I don't see them packaging like Harrison Barnes and the number 13 pick just to bail. But I think that they're looking at
that
this.
Would be crazy.
Oh, no, I think it would be too. I think they're looking at like pretty wide open. Like, look, if there's a trade that we could package a couple of veterans and the number 13 pick to get Kyle Kuzma, maybe that's something. That's one option. If there's a way for you to package your 2024, the number 13 pick, with a 2027 and 2029 and some other player package to go get Brandon Ingram. Okay, maybe that's on the table. Like, you have to look at, like, there's all kinds of things that could be on the table. I just don't think that drafting a player is at number 13 is going to help them today.
Right. And that's where I think the difference is. You mentioned the Davion pick and how in the 21 draft, you thought they'd trade the number 9, but they end up taking Davion. That was such a different point in the timeline. That was in the 2020-2021 season, they won 31 games. And it was still very early in the what the heck is this team process. And then Davion's rookie year, they go 30-52. And that previous season, they were last in the league in defense. Like, they needed help there. And so it made sense. Like, yeah, hey, you're going to bring in a young guy. You think he can help you defensively. That's like a building block for this team. And if there's a draft pick at 13 that Monty McNair is like, hell yeah, that guy's going to play 20 minutes a night for us right now. And to help us in A, B, and C ways, dang, what a player. Then sure, they'll use it. But I think that they're less liable to do that this year because of that urgency. Like, we talk about it all the time. Fans talk about it all the time. Chatty House is talking about it all the time. You get on Twitter. Like, the vibes of, yeah, hey, just being in playoff contention's cool. Like, no, man, people want more. I think the team wants more. You wrote about it. Like, nobody in that building was happy with how the season went last year.
No, I think people's jobs are eventually on the line.
Right.
Like,
and
you've got to win. Like,
and that's the key difference between this year and the Davion Mitchell draft, for example. Is like, yo, this year they got to do something.
Yep.
More than just, yeah, let's bring in a rookie and see how he fits. We're building this thing up. Like, nah, man. If you're bringing in a rookie, you know how he fits, and he's going to be in the rotation day 1.
Well, and the problem is, Kyle, that your team is now like between 24 and 28.
Yes.
2 years ago, this team was between 22 and 25. It just keeps getting older, and that you would think, oh, well, you want to get younger, go get younger players to get young. No, like, you have a track that you're now on. And I keep bringing this up, but I always think about the time when the Kings had Marco Bellinelli, who was a top 8 of the rotation shooter, right? And they were able to trade that guy to the Charlotte Hornets for the number 22 pick in the draft, right? So they were able to go out and get the number 22 pick. The number 13 pick is worth way more than that pick. So what can you get with that? Like in any draft, the number 13th pick should be able to get you either a starter or a number 6 man, like right there.
Right. A quality contributor.
Yeah, we're talking a 4, 5, 6 guy in your rotation is what you should be able to get for the 13th pick, because typically what you're doing is you're dealing with a team who is trying to start over, and they might have some quality veterans on their team, but those quality veterans aren't going to help with what they're doing today. So they're going to trade those guys to go add another pick, right? Go add another asset.
Sure.
So that's where the Kings are kind of at. They're in the reverse of what they did with Marco Bellinelli, but I think that they've got to be open to just about everything. And if that means that you can't find anything that works, and you get to that number 13, you draft the best player available. And so we can look at all these draft boards, these mock drafts, and say, who is it that's going to be around that range? Like, again, what do we got? Rob Dillingham, right?
That was in The Athletic.
It is in The Athletic as the guy. Like, he makes some sense. Like, especially if you were to lose Malik Monk.
Sure.
Even if you, I don't think if you were to keep Malik Monk, he doesn't make any sense, because
I totally agree.
Like, Dillingham is a quality player, but he's not very big.
What, he's 6'2", $164?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not only that, but he's known for his offense. He's not known as a defensive player. And one of the other problems, he measured in at 6'1" without shoes. And he's got a 6'3" wingspan. He's not even a big wingspan guy.
Super rangy, yeah.
Nah, yeah. So if I'm gonna draft a 6'1" guy right there, I want a 6'6", 6'7" wingspan.
Right.
So maybe his defensive potential is higher.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's a horrible defender. I don't know what he's gonna look like at the NBA level. He's an electric scorer. He's an electric playmaker. He reminds me a lot of his production reminds me of Malik Monk. His game reminds me more of Tyrese Maxey at the college level, not at the pro level. Nobody, again, like, people might want to tell you that they thought Tyrese Maxey was going to be this good. Maxey went, number 19 in the draft or whatever?
Yeah, his ascension, even just the last year and a half, has been insane.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Spectacular. What he's been able to do is really, really impressive. But, again, I think when you're looking at specific types of players that the Kings need, I don't know that adding a 6'1" guard to a 6'3" and then another 6'1" guard and Keonell's 6'4.5", well, 6'3.5" without shoes.
Yeah,
like, it's not a very big backcourt,
dude. And it's we've been going size, athleticism. That's what this team needs. And then it's like, hey, how about this 6'2", 164-pound guard who doesn't play a lot of defense? Like, man, what? And like you said, if Malik Monk leaves and the Kings are sitting there with Rob Dillingham, and again, this is in a mock draft from The Athletic, they have Dillingham falling to the Kings and Sacramento selecting him. They also put the caveat in there that they're more likely to deal the pick.
Yeah.
That's in there as well. But I don't like it at all, unless if Monk leaves and Monty McNair in the front office and Mike Brown look at Rob Dillingham and they're like, yo, he can do Malik stuff year one.
Okay.
Might be a little rocky out of the gate, but come playoff time, come March, April, we really think that he could be at least Malik Monk light in year one. Then fine, go for it.
Yep.
But man, if Monk stays and Rob Dillingham falls to 13, I think the benefit there for the Kings is there are a lot of teams who would probably love to have Rob Dillingham.
Oh, I totally agree.
And not contenders looking to win the finals this year, but teams that are looking to get younger. The Spurs might love to have a player like that next to Victor Wembanyama, for example, just throwing one out.
Yeah.
If the Hawks end up trading Trae Young, you throw Rob Dillingham in there and see how there's so many. I think there are a lot of instances where he'd be super valuable to a team and more valuable than what he'd give to the Kings.
Well, that and like here, I'll kind of like there's a couple of layers to what I'm going to say here. First of all, at Kentucky, as a freshman, he started 1 out of 32 games. He averaged 15.2 points, 2.9 rebounds, 3.9 assists off the bench, 49.5 from the field, 44.4 from 3. Like all of those are like, oh my gosh. His per 40 numbers, which is what they do in the NCAA, 26.1, 6.6, and 5 with 1.8 steals per game.
Man,
Like
pretty impressive.
It's almost like they've created another Malik Monk to go put out into the world. And that's fine, right?
It's like, hey, that guy rules. Let's make a new one.
Exactly. But here's the problem that I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
Is that if you're the Kings, you've got a handful of assets to work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first asset you have is number 13 pick in the draft.
Yes.
The next asset, your only true free agent, you have Alex Len, you have JaVale McGee, you've got Kessler Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Those are your 3 free agents, right? Outside of Malik Monk. But the problem is if you don't sign Malik Monk to that $17.4 million, the only thing you have to spend is a mid-level exception at like 12, 13 million and a biannual exception. So that's tough. Yeah. So what you can't do is on one night draft Rob Dillingham and then 2 days later sign Malik Monk. And now the only thing that you did during your offseason basically brought in 2 of the same players. That makes it really, really difficult when those are your only 2 like pieces. Now you can go out and trade and you can trade future picks and stuff like that. But the immediacy of this is that you only have really these 2 things that you're working on. What do we do with the number 13 pick / other pick / trades? And what do we do about Malik Monk? Is Malik Monk coming back? Is he not coming back? You would hope that by the 26th, 27th, the draft day, that we're going to know where Malik Monk is in his process. Yeah. And then you're going to hope that nothing changes right at the last second, because that's what you always have to be worried about.
Do you think we'll just on the Malik Monk front briefly, do you think that we'll know, because day after the finals end is when the Kings can start negotiating with him?
Yeah.
Do you think we'll legitimately know like right away?
No, I don't, because the other teams can't negotiate with him. That's the problem. So we know that the Kings can negotiate with Malik, but that's it. And so I'm not really sure, what they're going to do there. Like you're going to be able to see like, okay, we know, I can tell you right now, the Kings are all in at 4 year, 78 point whatever million, a 17.4 million. They're in. Like they can't announce that. They can't put it out there. But I can tell everybody out there in the world, the Kings are not going to lowball him. And I know some people are like, well, look what happened in the Mike Brown situation. No, it's not happening. It's over. Totally it's different. Like whatever it is he can get from the Kings, he will be offered that. Right. So he's not going to sign up day one, because he now has we got 2 weeks until free agency. We got 13 days until free agency officially starts. Technically, no team can go out there and give him an offer at all outside the Kings until the day of. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the way it works, because we always know a little bit in advance about what's going to happen. But it's because the offers kind of roll in really quickly. How does a player switch teams on 12:01 on the day or 3:01?
It's called tampering, James.
It's called tampering. Exactly. It's just a complicated world though that they're in, because you can call an agent and say, "Hey, we're we have player X that you have that's part of your." So again, Malik Monk has an agent. The Kings can call Malik Monk's agent and talk to them about Malik Monk. Another team could call that same agency because they have a player, and then say, just like in a general conversation, that agent could say, well, Malik Monk is looking for XYZ if you guys are interested. And the other team can, well, we can't tamper. Right. But there are ways in which you understand what it is players are asking for, what they want, what they're going to get from another team. And the other thing that Like, it's kind of a bummer for the Kings, but there's like a giant billboard on the internet that says the Kings can only offer Malik Monk 17.4 million
right.
and 78 million. So every team in the league knows what they're competing with.
Right.
They understand
that
very
makes
well.
it really tough.
Yeah, they understand exactly what the Kings can offer. So sure, do they know that they probably have to come in at 25 in order to get Malik to like switch what's happening here? Maybe, but maybe 22 gets it done. Maybe 19 gets it done. You don't know until you get into the negotiation and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we won't fully know. What we will start hearing is it like, oh, team the Orlando Magic or Toronto Raptors or Philadelphia 76ers are kicking the tires,
preparing to offer.
Yeah, they're interested, in acquiring.
If Woj
Malik
says
Monk.
a team is zeroing in on Malik Monk, watch out.
That means it's done. That
Yeah.
it does. So and then that's when the Kings are like calling to, say, hey, or do we have tampering going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
man,
anyway, it should be interesting.